What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are going to be taking care of one of the biggest issues the wife and I have with her new Equinox EV. Now, yes, this is kind of a self-made problem because we did buy the new 2025 LT base model, but it's something that you absolutely have to use every single day while driving, and it's pretty darn bad. And we're talking about the steering wheel. For 2025, you now have the base model LT trim available, which is a great $35,000 price point. I did make a kind of intro video on this thing on the channel previously. I'll throw a link down in the description. But one of the things her and I immediately noticed when we test drove was the steering wheel. It is the worst feeling steering wheel I've ever felt. It is the most plastic, rubbery, Fisher-priced, textured thing her and I have both ever felt. We got in it and went, wow, that is really, really bad. And that's what we're going to be fixing here today. I was able to order a steering wheel off of the leather or the high trim package. It's basically just the leather wrap steering wheel with nice white stitching that will match the interior. So today we're going to be swapping this thing onto it, but we are going to need to do a little bit of surgery. This is a heated steering wheel. This vehicle does not come equipped with a heated steering wheel, and it's not, unfortunately, as easy or as simple as just plugging in the steering wheel and having it work. There is a lot more things involved with heated seats or heated steering wheels than just plugging something in. There needs to be wiring in the clock spring. There needs to be modules. It is not feasible or easy, I guess I should say, to make this work. So instead of having a random button on the steering wheel that does absolutely nothing, we're going to swap out this switch panel with the factory one so we don't have a random button that doesn't work on the steering wheel, because that's not very cool. Eventually, if this thing gets traded in or sold, somebody's going to have this steering wheel and wonder why the heated steering wheel doesn't work, and it won't be very nice. So we will take care of the button issue and have a much, much nicer feeling leather wrap steering wheel on this thing. Now, guys, there are a few tools we of course need, and of course the steering wheel. Here is our GM part number for that steering wheel. Again, this is just the black, higher trim level steering wheel, not the RS trim, which would have red stitching. This is the, normal leather steering wheel with the white stitching. And other than that, again, we are going to need to swap out this switch panel so we don't have a random heated steering wheel button that doesn't do anything. We've got a T50 Torx here, so we can get our center steering wheel bolt off. We've got a 8mm here so we can get the airbag bolts off and out of the way. And then we've got a T20 on a screw gun so we can go ahead and take our steering wheel apart and swap that switch bank. Okay, guys, first things first on the steering wheel removal, we need to get the airbag unbolted and out of the way. And there are a couple of plastic trim panels on the back side of the steering wheel that are covering up the bolts for that. So we are going to need a small flat blade screwdriver so we can get in behind these little panels and pop them out of the way. Again, once you get the one side popped out, you're able just to pull the little panel directly outward and out of the way. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, before you even start any of this, you're going to want to make sure the steering wheel and the wheels are in a straight position or a forward position. That will just make everything a little bit nicer and easier to put the new steering wheel on and not have something out of time or moved. So again, wheel straight, steering wheel straight. Now that we've got both of those trim panels out of the way, we are able to take our 8mm and get our airbag bolts out. Now with those out, we can grab our airbag and pull the airbag directly out. And now we've got our airbag inflator connector. GM kind of has some weird connectors here with a orange tab on either side. You're basically going to need to lift the orange tab to be able to unhook that airbag connector. Now that we've got our airbag unhooked, we can go ahead and set it to the side here on the seat. So guys, here is the back of the steering wheel. You can see our bolt holes where the 8mm bolts went. Here is that airbag connector like we talked about with those little orange tabs that you need to lift or pull down on each side to be able to remove that connector. And now we're left with our steering wheel wiring harness connector here. And again, the red lock tab here needs to be lifted out of place. Once that is lifted up, there is a tab on the bottom. So with that tab depressed, you can remove that connector, because all of this wiring is going to stay with the steering wheel when we remove it. So the only thing now we're left with is our T50 Torx steering wheel bolt, and this thing is on ridiculously tight, and there is Loctite, so it's going to be a bear. I've got an impact. I'm not really sure how you're going to do that without an impact, because like I said, GM loves some Loctite on that bolt. But once that bolt is out of there, we are basically able just to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and pull the steering wheel off. Now, this is the very important part. Make sure you do not turn, twist, move our steering wheel clock spring. If this were to make a full rotation in the either direction and you were to reinstall the steering wheel, the steering angle sensor is going to be incorrect. You're going to have ABS lights. You're going to have traction control lights. The vehicle is not going to be happy. So please make sure, if you are doing this, to not have this clock spring turn. Again, physically, you're not going to hurt anything, but you do not want to turn this thing one way or the other. Make sure it is exactly how it was when you removed it. So let's go get the steering wheel over on the table and let's get our parts swapped and get this thing put back together. Okay, so like we talked about, we've got our new leather wrap steering wheel here, but unfortunately we do have our heated steering wheel button, which, like I said, is not going to work. You can't just plug this thing in and have it work. There is not, the wiring on the vehicle side is not there for the heated steering wheel. So we might as well take care of it, remove the button from the steering wheel so we don't have a random button that doesn't do anything. So guys, I'm going to take my T20 Torx and start tearing this thing apart. We've got screws on both sides, and I believe we're going to need to take all of those apart in order to take this steering wheel down and remove that switch. Now it does look like we have a little T10 Torx here at the bottom spoke of the steering wheel also that will have to come out. Okay guys, so a whole lot of fiddling and tear down to access these back two screws to be able to remove them from the steering wheel, but we've got it. Now we just need to do it all over again onto the new wheel. Okay guys, so if you hopefully saw that whole ordeal, apparently we do not need to remove any of the screws on the back other than the center one there on the spoke. And then in the front, I was able just to take the 4 screws out and pop the front cover up enough to get our switch accessible. There was a couple of Torx there on the back of that, and then that switch can be removed and the new one installed. We've got our steering wheel fully reassembled. We've got all of our screws back in, and this thing is now a heated steering wheel without the heated steering wheel button, so it matches our vehicle's wiring harness. So we are ready to get this thing back installed into the vehicle. Now, as you guys assumed, install is obviously just going to be the reverse of our removal. We're going to get our steering wheel back on. Now, you can't put this on wrong because there is a master spline. There's a big flat section that matches a spot on the vehicle, so you can't even put it on wrong. It goes on one way. We will get our steering wheel bolt reinstalled. Now, yes, I'm sure, or there is a torque spec. Are we going to do the torque spec? Should we? Probably yes, but I have worked in a dealership long enough and have taken off hundreds and hundreds of steering wheels, and so far have not had one fall off on me. So don't do as I do, but do as I say, and make sure you properly torque the steering wheel bolt. Now that we've got that, we've got our main yellow wiring harness we're able to flip under and get plugged in, and push our red lock tab in, and then last but not least, we're able to get our airbag plugged back in. And again, we've got those brackets that push through and get, lined up with the, threaded hole there on the back that we looked at when we took it apart. Those 8mm will go back in and we're kind of done. Like I said, we'll throw the 2 8mm screws. And then we've got our 2 plastic trim pieces that go on. And now the moment of truth. I'm going to go grab the key. We're going to hit the brake pedal and see that all of our switches are working like they should. And now we'll have a much nicer place to be. Okay, so with our key now, we're going to hit the brake pedal. And we've got the vehicle powered up with no warning lights on the dash. So we've got all of our wiring connected. We're going to go through and make sure all of our buttons work. We've got our page instrument cluster button working as it should. We've got our cruise control button working. We've got our media button working. Everything is doing what it is supposed to do. But now we've got a leather wrap steering wheel. And yes, even though the thing is not heated, it's still just going to feel a lot more premium when you're driving, because again, that steering wheel is the thing you are holding on to while you're driving, obviously. So this is going to make the car feel a lot nicer, make it feel like it probably should have. Come on, GM, throw the leather wrap steering wheel on the thing for $100. It's a $35,000 vehicle. I understand you've got to kind of differentiate trim models, but you could throw the nice leather steering wheel on the even on the base model and not put the plastic Fisher Price steering wheel on. So guys, as these 2025s roll out and you find yourself wondering, man, this steering wheel sure does feel cheap, you at least know what the process entails. You might not want to tackle this yourself as you're working with an airbag and you're taking intricate steering wheel control stuff apart, but you at least know what is involved to do this process, and it might be something you can tackle, or you know a buddy like myself who's a mechanic that could tackle for you. So for a relatively cheap cost, you can have a lot nicer feeling steering wheel in your hand. So guys, thanks for coming out into the garage with me and doing our first Equinox EV mod and making this thing a little bit nicer and a little bit less base model place to be while you're driving. And so guys, thanks for coming out into the garage with me and getting this handled. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.